four things, super clear: raw intelligence, hunger, integrity, and team players.
Yeah.
Those four things need to be in my team.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Frontera, a podcast dedicated to exploring the dynamic startup and venture capital ecosystem in Latin America and the innovators behind it all. We're your hosts, Cyrus and Tom. If you enjoy this conversation, we invite you to subscribe to our newsletter where we announce new episodes and share additional insights and resources for founders and investors alike. We'd also like to invite you to share this podcast with your friends and to leave a review on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube to help more people discover the show. We love hearing from our audience. You can connect with us on LinkedIn and Twitter by searching for La Frontera Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to La Frontera. Today we're sitting down with Nico from Vambe, who's the founder and CEO. Nico, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, team, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Shout out to Lucia from Nazca for the intro. Really excited to talk to Nico today. Like, the story of Vambe is incredible and you guys are growing. There's so much happening. Would love to hear, for our listeners, a little bit of context. What do you guys do?
Well, basically, we solve a very big problem we have in LatAm. People who live here who are from LatAm knows we like to talk a lot. So normally B2C companies face the chaos. It's a complete mess when they try to serve their customers in time and form because they get flooded with messages in WhatsApp, in Instagram, in SMS, phone call, it's just crazy. So we are helping them scale that commercial operations with AI. So basically, what we do is we connect to all the communication channels and we help them deploy agents so that we can automate from 0 to 100% of their conversational flows in different industries. That's a broad overview of what we do. And just like a quick example. So, for example, if you have dental clinics and you don't have knowledge about agents, about AI, but you're growing your business, you get a lot of customers who want to understand what will be the best service for them, what's the pricing, and all of that customer interaction and lead management, we can do it via WhatsApp or Instagram DM, and we can take the lead from a cold lead that's finding information to someone who had booked a meeting or booked the agenda, and that's going to be arriving, and we can kind of reschedule and handle all those interactions.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super cool technology, and like we haven't had a chance to really dive into like a pure like AI native company in LatAm. So, we'll definitely come back to exactly, what you guys do and some more, I guess, like deeper questions on that. But I wanted to hear also, how did you start this company? Where'd you come up with the idea and like where do you come from?
Oof, that's going to be a long story short, but I'm going to start from where I come from. I'm from Chile. Um, to be honest, all of my entire family are entrepreneurs. So from my dad side, they're all entrepreneurs. My mom as well, so kind of I grew up living that life since I was very, very, very little. And I lived that entrepreneurial roller coaster of emotions, of money, no money, good situation, bad situations. Actually, like a fun fact, I've been living in like 15 different houses along my life since I was like from when I was born till I was 18 years old. So being exposed to that kind of having to adapt to different environments since very young. And I think that's kind of what actually built my entrepreneurial character, I would say. And then I jumped into school. I always been a fan of sport. I used to play a lot of rugby and I jumped into university to study engineering. And there I got immediately attracted to an idea. I wanted to do kind of back then in LatAm, I wanted to do a QR payment method. And it really didn't kind of work out that well. But with that idea, I got into this kind of, let's say, startup world and understanding more technology and all of that. And I won a scholarship. I went to study at Berkeley. And then is when kind of I really started to understand how businesses and startups really worked in Silicon Valley. And that kind of really put me, I think, in another mindset, I would say. And then I came back to Chile, finished my career. and immediately started out with Vambe when I finished my career. We started out in 2023 actually with a different idea. We wanted to do debt collection. With my actual co-founder, I invited him to do actually another business. I told Matthias, hey, why don't we do carbon credits? I wanted to do a startup related to carbon credits. And he told me, no, like, you're crazy. I got no idea how to do that. Let's do kind of a debt collection CRM. And I said, okay, like, let's do it. I really used to have another businesses before. So I used to have like a barbecue, a barbecue SNB for like premium barbecue charcoal and meats and all that stuff. I used to import some products from China. So I always had that problem of having to collect money from my customers. And I said, okay, yeah, this is a real issue. Let's do it. I wasn't in love with the idea. I just wanted to build something with a technical co-founder, and he was the perfect guy for it. And that's how we started. During that year, we kind of pivoted and tried to do different stuff, and we realized we weren't passionate about debt collection. But ChatGPT at that point didn't have agents to the public, let's say. And we were kind of hard coding agents into WhatsApp that could connect to our database so we could go out into do that collection communications and also update our database so that we can put like reminders in the future and all that stuff. And that's when we kind of realized that the cool thing that we built was an internal product that back then we called Iris that allows us to kind of orchestrate agents into WhatsApp. And that's when we kind of pivoted and we kind of did a startup book pivot because we enabled our back office to the rest of the world. And we kind of we did a switch where we said, hey, look how these companies automating their sales in WhatsApp with AI and connecting it with Google Calendar and HubSpot and different CRMs. That's how we
That's
started
incredible.
and where we come from.
That's incredible. Just going from internal product to pivoting and actually using that as your main product. So it was really born out of like a true need as you were like as a company. Yeah,
And we
I
use
love
it,
that.
and we've been using Vambe to sell itself since day one. So we were using it internally to collect debt, but then when we pivoted, we were using Vambe to sell itself since the beginning. So it's been super cool.
I kind of want to dig into your family a little bit, just because you said that your parents, I think, were entrepreneurial, correct? So you kind of grew up in an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So kind of curious, mainly because like as I've been going through like what I've been currently building right now, I've been leading a lot on some of my cousins who were entrepreneurs and who I saw, they're a lot older than me. They're probably at least like 10 to 20 years older. And so I saw them growing up build the businesses that they currently run right now. And I think that was super helpful for me just to see what that looks like from the inside, because a lot of folks don't get to see that. So like, how did that, I guess like how did that shape your view of like what business is and how you operate today,
Yeah.
if anything, if it did?
No, actually, what it did, it kind of showed me that this might sound a bit weird, but I kind of realized it was fucking hard and it wasn't
Yeah.
stable. And I kind of realized it was risky, but I liked it. Like my dad and my mom as well were extremely, and also my grandparents, they also were entrepreneurs. So kind of in my family, job and life didn't have like a clear separation. So we were on a Saturday in the office sometimes doing some things or going and look to a customer. Like for me, I grew up in a place where weekends and week kind of for my parents and my grandparents and my mom wasn't that much different. And I think that's something I kind of really like. Nowadays, for me, my job is also my life. You know, that quote where they say, like, being a founder is not a full time job, it's a full life job. I think that's pretty true. My conversations that I have with my partner and with my friends are about my business and about tech and about SaaS. It might sound super boring for other people, but for me, it's what I do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like more of like an integration with your normal day-to-day life.
Yeah,
And I think it's more normalized because you get to do that as a kid. And so you grew up kind of seeing that day to day. I think I've
exactly.
seen a lot of, yeah, no, that's amazing. Love that.
So it's like it's in your blood. Like you were always going to start something. It sounds like, but But you also kind of mentioned to us that, when you went to Berkeley, that's where it kind of came together. You're like, I'm going to start a business. Like, can you talk a little bit about, being in the Bay Area and how that kind of rewired your ambition to start a company?
Yeah, well, my experience in Berkeley was amazing. I had the fortune to go to a high school where I could learn English, so I had the resources to kind of really go forward and in the Bay Area. And when I arrived to Berkeley, I remember it was the time where, for example, Bitcoin and crypto was the thing, and the blockchain was the big thing.
Yeah, I was in Miami during that time. It was a scary place.
Yeah,
And when were you at Berkeley again? Was that
2020,
20,
2018.
2018? Oh, so that
Yes,
was like the first crypto boom, like
yes.
2017, 2018. Yeah.
Yes. And I remembered when I was in Chile to see it like in YouTube. And then I went to university and they were doing courses about blockchain. And that's when I realized like people are thinking really ahead and really big here, you know? And actually, I always tell to my friends and to other people, and in the other podcasts, I've said it before. I think one of the biggest differences I've seen in Silicon Valley versus LatAm is mindset. People in the Bay Area really think they can do crazy shit. And they, at the end of the day, they do it. I don't know how, but they do it because they think they can do it. In Latam, you tell someone that you want to build a business with 500 million ARR, they say they laugh at you. It's something, you're crazy, right? So that kind of thinking extremely big is the biggest difference for me.
I think a lot of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of it really comes down to what we were just talking about with you and your parents. I think number one, it's normalization. In the Bay Area, you're surrounded by people that are doing exactly what you're doing day to day. And so what you see day to day is AI, tech, robots, like reaching, like trying to
Fundraising,
colonize, yeah, Tesla's colonizing Mars, things like that, right? So it's like day to day, you're just like, holy shit, like this is possible. I'm going to go do this.
yes, it's the difference too big. I think there's also that might be also very related to the VC ecosystem. In the Bay Area, if you want to raise 1 million, 2 million, it's something you can do. I don't want to say easy because it's never easy, but it's
Hey, if it
doable.
says if your company website is .ai,
You can do.
Yeah.
you're
just
halfway
just
there.
grab a scone, grab some coffee, walk out with $1 million.
I mean, we don't need to take credit for other people, but yeah, kind of, right? It's a thing. And also, you see so much success stories and you see real technology being built. So you get very inspired. Even your professors, like this is a funny thing, but I remember one of my first days in university, one of the teachers actually told us, like, hey, you need to do this because it's the first thing when you go out to look for a job. That's what they're going to look in your resume. And I was like, I'm not going to look out for a job. I don't care about that. And everybody assumes you got to go out and do things because of your resume. This is very important, right? And when I went to Berkeley, nobody ever told me something like that, you know?
Yeah. I think you also
That's
nailed it, is like the success stories and the seeing things like happening, and it's just like maturity of the ecosystem in San Francisco.
Yeah.
You can't say that about like a lot of places. So you feel more comfortable taking those risks because you see people doing that and having success. But with that being said, though, why moving back to Chile? And do you think Chile is a good? We haven't dug into kind of like the ecosystem in Chile, but it's definitely one of the more mature ones in terms of like Latin America startups. Well, economically very stable. Would love to kind of hear your thoughts on that.
I do think Chile is a very good place to start a business, but it's just that. It's a very good place to start. Why? Because as you mentioned, Tom, Chile it's very good on adopting new technologies. So everybody's like early adopters and they jump in, they try it out. We're very straightforward in comparing to Mexico culture, where you need to talk and no is not really a no and all that. Like in Chile, if you don't want something, just say, hey, I don't care about your thing. So just you move on. And when you want something, you go and you pay, right? It's a bit more American in that regards. So it's good for starting out a business because you've got early adopters, you can move fast, economy for me is not the best right now, but in comparison to other areas in LatAm, it's good. So I think it's a good starting point. But if you want to build something huge, you need to go out. Like the market is super small. Like entire population is less than 20 million people. And just in Ciudad de Mexico, you've got like 28 million people, right? So it's a good market to start, but you need to be prepared to go out and move on.
So expanding to Mexico was automatic, like from day one. You guys knew you had to do that, and you probably had to paint that story as well when you went to raise
Yes,
money.
yes, 100%. Of course, we didn't have a date back then in that moment, but we did know we weren't going to be a company just based in Chile.
Right. And can you talk a little bit about that sort of first jump to raising money and like pitching, and like how much money have you guys raised in the past less than 2 years?
Almost 20 million.
That's absolutely insane,
Yeah,
especially for LatAm, and the kind of thinking right now, like just in the air, like everyone is kind of like it's extremely hard to raise money in general, but like
in
especially in
general.
Latin America. Talk about like kind
Yes.
of how you're able to do that.
Look, never raised money before. So when we started out, we didn't have an idea what we were doing, but we were lucky because we were able to jump into Skydeck. That's UC Berkeley and incubator, and we got some funding for them. It's, let's say, a YC, but much smaller with just 20 teams. It's super personal, so that's very cool. Okay, and that's where I kind of learned everything. So Chon Tang, he's the managing partner. He's a very smart guy, and he was with us back to back and with all the Skydeck team and teaching us like what's data room. That's also something I kind of pry about university. Nobody told me what a data room is, and I was like, fuck, how did I know this? What's an equity round? What are stock options? How do you work with them? How do, like, all of that thing, you don't learn it in university. So Sky, they kind of teach me how to build a good pitch, how to build a data room. And there's much more thing. Like right now, actually our series A, we didn't have a pitch, because when you do real fundraising and when you become very good at it, it's a different game. It's a game of relationships. It's a game that it's a it's not how everybody thinks it's a pitching content. At the beginning, when you're raising pre-revenue and you go out and you want to go to YC, that's the best thing maybe entrepreneur can do. I think that's a very good idea. But then it's about building and working the network, working on the numbers. I learned how to kind of, let's say, warm up my investor leads, because I was sending some investor updates and I sent some Notion. So I learned how to do that in Berkeley. But to be honest, I think like, we've been successful raising money because we've been executing excellent. We've been having good numbers. We've been impeccable in execution.
Speaks for
That's
itself. The
why,
numbers kind of
yes,
speak for themselves.
yes, exactly. There's a very good saying out there that's, you don't need to raise money when you need it. That's not a good time to raise money, right? So I think, and that's where we learned. And I think from there, we raised money from Monashis, that's been leading our seed and our Series A, incredible fund. They started the VC ecosystem in LatAm 20 years ago from Brazil with Eric, that's managing partner and the co-founder. And I loved working with them. It's been also super transparent. And Marcelo Lima, who's the partner, who's right now in our board, in our first board meeting, it wasn't a board meeting, but it was our first meeting after they gave us the first seed round. He told me, okay, guys, right now we are seated in the same side of the table. You don't need to keep pitching us. You need to show us what's not working, and let's see a way how can we work together. And that's the kind of honesty and relationship we've been building since then.
So actually, on the topic of execution then, how do you guys execute? Because within a year and a half, going from, starting the company to Series A 1,000, I think 700 customers, a bunch of, I think it's 6 million ARR or something. You guys have a lot, right? You have a lot going for you. How did you do that so fast? And
Yes,
I guess like also not even including the pivot too. Because you guys also pivoted from the first company into
yeah,
Vambe, what it is today. And then from there
yes,
built that
yes,
super quickly.
exactly.
So yeah, how'd
Yes.
you guys do that?
I think there's a lot of things we could talk a lot about this, but I think I think the work ethic we built as founders and that we've been able to to trespass to the rest of the team and working with the best guys ever. First time we had a little bit of money, the first thing did is bring in the best guys we knew back then and pay them like we didn't even pay ourselves and we were paying them market level salaries or a bit less of course because we didn't have that much. So thank you guys if you're gonna be listening this. But the point is we built a very good team and we worked the hell out. Like we've been working weekends, all weekends, Sunday and Saturdays. We started the company. We are first time founders. I had an SMB, small businesses before, but like real startup like this, we're first time founders. So we understood that the only thing that we could win others was working more, working the correct things. So I think that's the most important part. And also, I think we were lucky. We were lucky in the timing. We built a product customers are craving. And yes, of course, you need to pivot and you need to adjust and you need to, and this is also something very important. When you need to be executing very fast all the time and finding small pivots and looking what really works and what the customers want. That's also been super important when we've been building the product. I think
Yeah.
one of the things we are I don't want to say famous for, but what we are different for is that we have a very strong product.
You'll be famous for that after this comes out.
Yeah, so talking about that then, what you guys are known for is a very strong product, and you talked about investing in your people, but that then brings me to think like what kind of people did you invest in? Was that engineering? Was that product, sales, et cetera? Or like was that just spread across the team? Like how did you guys prioritize your hiring? Who were the first
beginning,
couple? Yeah.
in the beginning, it was engineers. My two co-founders are engineers, super technical. I am also an engineer, but at some point we had like 6 engineers and me doing sales. That was the team. I was doing meta campaigns. I was doing videos. I was going out for leads. I was taking calls. I was closing the leads, and I was the muscle bringing in the revenue. And once I understood how to do that, I started bringing people and building processes so we can start scaling that. But the core, we're a tech company. We were bringing engineers. Right now, we only have engineers in now, like we don't have product by itself. Like we don't have PMs, for example. We only have 20 exceptional engineers, and we've been doing very good with that methodology. It's
Yeah.
different, but it's good.
I think that's more of like the product led growth then. It's just build like an incredible product that everyone loves. And then from there, it's just kind of founder led sales. So you're going out, you're doing the initial thing, you're doing the
Yes.
legwork first. And then from
And
there,
then
training your sales team from there. That's,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think that's a very good recommendation for people who are thinking of starting a business. Like I've talked with other founders and friends, and they are starting out the business, and they say, "Oh no, I need to hire a sales guy." You don't even know how to sell your own product. How are you going to teach someone else to sell your thing, right? So I think that's super important as well because you also get all the feedback of the customer. What do they want? What they don't want? Like with what kind of features do they get impressed or not. It's super important that the founder actually learns how to sell itself basically, and then you start building the team, scaling that machine.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it's also I think it depends though on what the product is and kind of what the market looks like. Cause I think for you guys, you have a very unique like product, right? Like there's not a lot of like sort of like direct competition out there. So you don't necessarily have to like have like a marketing team to like, create kind of like this image of you guys versus, competition. It's kind of like, here's the product. Is it out there? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, of course it depends. in different areas. The founder needs to be able to sell the product better than everybody, and that's something basic, I think, in any industry. But in our case, we started out, we were first movers, so at the beginning we had zero competition. But nowadays, automating sales on WhatsApp is something so obvious that there's a lot of people trying to do this. So nowadays, we do have a strong marketing team that I lead, do have a strong sales team that also reports to me. We have sales managers, VP of sales, and all that. But right now, I'm very on top of revenue. So I'm being like a CRO right now. And I am kind of understood how to market the company, what were the main things to say, what things not to say. I had no experience in marketing before, so I wasn't the best. I am not the best, but we kind of learned very fast.
And
Yeah.
when you're hiring these folks that you believe are exceptional, how do you judge their character? How do you judge like if they're exceptional or not? Was there anything during the hiring process that you looked for?
4 things, super clear: raw intelligence, hunger, integrity, and team players. Those 4 things need to be in my team.
And
I have
you
it
determine,
super clear.
yeah. And then you determine that essentially just by through the conversations with them,
Yes.
through okay.
Of course, an engineer, sometimes you do some testing and you can kind of understand how do they solve problem. So for different roles, you kind of have different tools to try to dig into those big 4 characteristics. But in a conversations, you immediately know. And I think if you want to be in a high performance team, you need to have a lot of hunger, and you need to have that, like, be a bit crazy.
Yeah. Were most of the hires that you ended up hiring, were they inbound? Were they just applying to the roles, or did they come through like referrals? Did you find
At
them?
the beginning, who's gonna come for you?
Yeah.
Nobody. You gotta go out to look for that people. We were very lucky though, because we studied engineering in Universidad Católica. I think it's the best engineering school in Chile. And we were able to study there. So we knew very smart people and very good people. So I went back to look to my friends and look for the best ones. And Matias and Diego, who are my co-founders, they did the same with their friends, and we built a very, very good team. I think talent brings talent. So when you are able to build a very good people, 10 very good, crazy guys, then people want to work. They want to come to Vambe. And I think right now, a lot of people would like to work with us because we build a nice culture. We've been building a business that is kind of surfing this AI wave. It's a very young and fun company to work on. Like, we have some like old school practices. So for example, we work in person, like no excuses. So we kind of mix very young culture, but with also some old school culture that I think it's very good. So that, let's say, employee brand, you got to build it with results and culture. But at the beginning, you got to go after them.
Yeah. That great transition. I was literally about to ask that question. So I see in your background there, you're in the office right now. You're in
Yeah.
Mexico City. For you is very important. Yeah. So there's the whole team, and it's yeah. Friday, 5, what is it? 5, 4,
40,
41,
5:40 in Mexico.
5:40
People in
in
Mexico,
Mexico.
they don't work that late in
Yeah.
Mexico,
So
and not in Fridays.
yeah, so like you thought it was important opening Mexico. You're the CEO. You want to be there. You want everyone to be in the office. It's so unusual. It's different, in this kind of age of remote work. What's so important about being in the office and like seeing everyone like grinding around you? Like, what are the things that for you, like it's a no brainer. You have to be in the office.
You got to know the people who you're working with. I mean, you're going to spend more time with them than with your family and your friends. Like, how is it possible to build very strong relationship and trust in a team that you haven't never met? That's something very important for me. So personal connection is super important. And the second thing is problem solving. You're facing something hard. You grab one of the smart guys here, you bring into the room, and you get whiteboard and pay. It's a different type of thinking. It's a different type of executing and problem solving that it's hard to have it online. And finally, and very related to the first one, is culture. If you want to build a top performing team. I really, and this is what Netflix has been doing, and I really think it's good. Like this is like a professional rugby team, it's like a professional sport team, and you need to train together, you need to practice together, you need to be together. That's why we think in person is so, so important for us.
Yeah. I really like your point about culture, because I think also part of the in-person mentality is like you see how hard your teammates are working, and that motivates you to work hard as well. I feel
Exactly.
like sometimes you can lose touch with like the mission, with your teammates, et cetera, if you're remote. And I know we might get some hate on this from the remote gang, but
I always get some hate with that. Actually, sometimes I do some interviews and when I tell the people like, hey, we work fully. And when they start asking like, how many times can I work from home and all that? And I say like, I mean, I think you're not going to be a good fit for the culture of it.
Yeah. I think also when you're remote, and like honestly, I love being remote. Like it's great. But like when you're remote, it feels like just like a job. And it's like you clock
Exactly.
out when you
Yes.
clock out. Meanwhile, like if you're in the office and it's like your point about like problem solving, if something like comes up, you're all there. It feels like, I don't know, there's a little bit more kind of excitement.
You feel more the progress as well. Like
Yeah.
we have some rituals where we kind of do a sales and we kind of scratch the board, and it feels like gets more embedded into your life, I feel, and you get to know and become friends with the rest of the people. I think is healthy, is good.
Yeah. Quick pause. I messed up the intro. Welcome to La Frontera. I'm Tom. Cyrus, you're muted.
hey, I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. Anyway, getting back to the interview. So in Mexico now, working in the office, can you talk a little bit about how your agents that you program and train differ from country to country? So getting a little bit into the guts of like how it works. Culture, as you mentioned earlier, super different in Mexico. People talk to each other differently than in Chile, than in other countries. So talk a little bit about how you deal with that on your platform.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest strength of Vambe. Has a level of personalization that's just insane. So you gotta imagine that every customer have a specific agent for every process, for every sub-step of each process. So, for example, we use our product to sell itself, and we have our sales funnel for Mexico, for Argentina, for Chile, for Colombia, and every funnel have at least 5 or 6 different agents. So you're able to give a personality, an objective, a set to follows. We build a technology that we call prompt blocks so that we can create agents like puzzle pieces. So for example, let's say I want to prompt the personality of my sales agent of Mexico. I can build a section of the prompt once, and I can just start recycling that to the next agents related to any Mexico process that I have. And then I would just have to change my steps to follow and the tool calling, for example, right? So that's something super relevant because remember, we are dealing here with the most important process of any company. That's the sales process. If you got no sales process, you got no company. Are we aligned on that? Right. So that's a hyper mission critical process. And since that's so important, every company, even inside one vertical, so let's say dental clinics, you can't sell agents out of the box agent for dental clinics because they have their own system, they have their own tone, they have their own special sauce there that you need to be able to reflect into the agents. So hyper personalization is something super, super important.
And then on that, like when you're actually like when you're building the first agents, how did that kind of like process go? I want to hear about kind of like, kind of at the starting to program agents and where you started. Who were your first customers that you targeted?
We've been suffering since day one because at the beginning it was me and my co-founder prompting every agent one by one from 0 to 100 for every customer. And we started out serving very, very small companies that didn't have any idea of technology, that like they weren't able to use even Google Calendar, right? So it was super, super hard. And that's where we we're getting and we kind of learned so much because we've been deploying this to so many people. And in that process of building agents one by hand is where we realize we are seeing a patterns here. We can do this in a much more efficient way. Like, why should I prompt the personality and the things that the agent shouldn't do every time? That's nonsense. And that's when we started thinking about these blocks, about agents and building it like just like puzzles, right? So it was a painful process that took us to the product we have now and the methodology we have now to building and orchestrating agents.
And what do you think about like the adoption of AI across Latin America? I feel like we haven't heard a ton of stories of AI native companies
Mm.
in LatAm, but I do feel like at least startups and people in tech, like they are using AI. Like our company, the product is not AI necessarily, maybe a little AI enabled, but everything we do, AI is involved. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel like adoption is and why do you think LatAm hasn't quite got there and in terms of like the scale or percentage of companies that are coming out that are AI native?
Mm. Yeah, this is a very interesting point. I think we have two sides of the coin here. The first side of the coin is how companies are adopting the technology to improve their business, right? That's one side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is why aren't we seeing so many AI native startups being born, right? So I think we can talk about two different things here. And I got more experience in the first one because that's the customers we serve. And I can tell you like AI adoption in LATAM it's of course it's not moving as fast maybe than in the US, but the main blocker I would say is technical knowledge. And that's kind of the issue we solve. So I was in Miami 2 weeks ago and talked to a few customers and wanted to understand. And I actually talked to a dental clinic and they did know how to prompt an agent, you know? So there's a gap on, let's say, technical expertise in the US versus in LATAM that I think that's providing a gap in adoption. But in our minds in LATAM, companies do want to adopt AI. They do know it's going to be critical and it's changing the world and they're eager to adopt AI, but they don't have the resources, neither the knowledge to do it in a good way. So I think that's where we are seeing the lag. And I also think that's also one of the things that is making us successful because we're not providing a self-serve product. We're building a huge team that is professional, that are onboarding engineer, success engineer, support engineers, consulting on sales reps. It's hard, like it's heavy lifting. You got to provide a great product and you got to provide a great service so that companies in Latam can adopt this technology. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference.
So it seems like there's a lot of white glove service hand holding, and that's lowering the barrier to entry essentially for a lot of these companies that are
Yes.
signing on to use your product. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Also, that's at the beginning, you think about that, but it's also a mode that we have because building that white glove service, that forward deployment engineering at scale, it's hard.
Yeah. And I think it's so necessary though. I'm kind of curious, a lot of the customers that you have, are they typically like SMEs, SMBs, enterprises? Like who typically benefits? It seems like if they're dental clinics, a lot of them are SMEs.
Yes,
Yeah.
mid-market companies.
Yeah.
It's not small companies, but mid-sized companies are, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think hand holding is key because obviously with enterprises, they have massive teams. They have the time, they can go in and dedicate it to setting something up. Where I've seen, folks get tripped up with implementation is those mid-market to like smaller businesses, because that's where you have teams that are just so focused on running the business. They don't want, or they don't have the time to implement new technology, train everyone up on it. And it takes time and it sucks money. And so I think that's where like what you mentioned, the forward deployed engineer has been such like a game changer for implementations and just getting, time from like contract signing to cash, like the first payments,
And
which
you
is key.
start shrinking them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's incredible.
We have a very short sales cycle for us, our average ticket. And that's because we've been pushing and helping them. And we have very aggressive, like go-to-market strategy in terms of we give them guarantee, we help them with deployment. Like we are very aggressive in that regards because We trust our process, we trust our product, and that we can start giving in some more speed to the machine.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about how that evolved, that process evolved over time? Have you guys always had like forward deployed engineers, like white glove service? Like how did it evolve from the very beginning?
Yeah, we always did it because
Always.
it was impossible. Like it was, as I mentioned before, like Matias doing the prompting engineering. Nobody knew about AI in Chile in 2023, 2024, at the beginning. ChatGPT wasn't a thing, right? So people didn't know what a prompt was, right? So since day one, we realized we were gonna have a war on operations. We were gonna need these services, right? So we started building our processes that way, and it's been working. But we've been adapting that to provide a better experience every month, every day. We fight for being able to provide the best experience in the world. It's hard, but that is our goal, right? And the process looks simple from the outside, but from the inside it's hard to handle because you got to take the customer through a complete journey from like engineering doing the sale that is very consultative, and then doing the handoff to this forward deployment engineering, doing the prompt, connecting the channels, helping with integrations, and then doing the adjustment. But also you need to train the customer so that he also can have a not a basic understanding, a good understanding on the platform. At the end of the day, we're also helping and teaching people how to, let's say, manage agents. And my co-founder have a very strong vision on that. He's always saying like, we need to learn how to become AI managers, not people managers. And I think we're also helping in that mission. That's very good.
Yeah. It reminds me of Amazon and how they've been converting a lot of their warehouses over to robots. And as part of that process, they've been retraining their workforce. So the folks that work in the warehouses and help package and sort packages and things like that, they've been retraining them since obviously now there's robots doing their jobs. They've been retraining them to manage the robot workforce. And so now they're learning how to troubleshoot the robots, like how do you like make them more efficient, things like that. So that's perfect.
And that's
And
when
so
you start driving productivity in the world. That's how
yeah,
productivity goes up, right? So at the beginning, we were picking up berries, and then we had, I don't know, well, berries is a bad example because it's still
And
very manual, but
I think we're still doing that for now. For now,
yes, yes,
we're go-
that's my
but
point.
we're gonna have to in the U.S. start creating robots to do that quickly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
no,
mean,
but
you can think about combine harvester. I mean, I don't know if our audience is going to know about combines, but yeah, with like corn, right? Like
exactly.
you would have to pick
I
corn
wanted
ears. Yeah,
wanted to do that example, but berries was a bad example. Yeah, but you get my point. You get my point. First we do it, then we do it with a machine, then we supervise a machine.
exactly. It's the same
And
thing with
then
hiring a person, though, right? Like you do it, you hire someone to do it, you supervise them, you train them up, and then eventually they can hire someone else. And it's just like, maybe it's not like a multi-level marketing scheme, but it seems like one.
Uh,
But
It's just another shift, right? It's like
yeah,
industrialization, right? You have now like machines kind of like doing people's jobs or, raising productivity. So people have to, retrain and kind of adjust, right? And so while I do feel like it's a little bit of a crisis because like everyone in school right now is not, they're not actually learning anything. They're just like putting things in ChatGPT and, outcomes, but they still are learning how to use AI and how to manage it, which is kind of at the end of the day, what they're going to have to do in
yeah.
the workforce. I have a question, Nico. Are you guys going to expand to Brazil?
yes, we want to. It's one of the goals and one of the reasons also. I wouldn't say it's one of the reasons why we raised the money. That's not true. Uh, but of course, we did have it in mind when we were looking for this round, and it's a key place for expansion, specifically because Brazil is it's a place where we do have an extremely good product market fit. So they are one of the most advanced countries in WhatsApp. They're very good at marketing. They're almost 300 million people. It's just it's the beast of LatAm, let's say. So we need to be there at some point. Hopefully we hopefully we manage to fix some things. hopefully we manage to get to a point where it's healthy to go to Brazil. It's responsible with the company and the cash and the balance and all that stuff to go to Brazil. Right now, we are working on adjusting pricing stuff, adjusting things on churn, on service, on operations. Like we are, let's say, putting the machine in a place where it's ready to go, and that's when we kind of double down and do that investment and go to Brazil.
And what do you think what exactly does it take to like successfully move to Brazil? I think with your particular technology, like how do you think about like training agents specifically for Brazil? Obviously there's a language difference, culture difference. And then also, do you feel like you need to hire like a Brazil team and then eventually you would want to be there, like kind of like managing it? I'm kind of interested to hear because a lot of companies have difficulty expanding to Brazil or from Brazil to other countries. It's definitely a tough market.
Yeah, it's a tough market. It's very big. It's super different. It's another language. The way to go, and I'm pretty sure, and that's if we go to Brazil, that's what we are gonna do. We're gonna hire a very, very strong local team, and I'm gonna be there. And probably Diego, my co-founder, the CTO, is gonna be there as well. Like if you gonna, then our perspective is like if you go to Brazil, you gotta go hard. You gotta go all in. You gotta take decisions of the product from Brazil. If you want to tackle Brazil and be successful in Brazil, I think you gotta basically move your not move your headquarters, but you need to start taking decisions from there to the rest of LatAm, not from Chile to Brazil. It makes no sense, right? Uh, that's that might be our biggest market ever. So that should be leading decisions in terms of product and other stuff.
Do you worry though about, too quickly moving into another market and kind of losing focus on, the Mexico market that you're trying to like build right now? I asked that it's something that we're kind of dealing with right now, my company, where moving into the US, which is the biggest market, the most competitive market, it's something that you want to have all your attention on, but then you maybe risk losing kind of your bread and butter sort of like markets that you're still working on. So how do you kind of like manage that going super hard in Brazil, but also keeping everything?
Of course, I worry, and it's a real preoccupation. I don't know if that's a word, sorry, but it's a real thing. It's
It is. It's a word. Yeah.
nice. That's good
Sometimes
to
with
know.
English to Spanish, you just say it a little bit differently. The TION or CION.
That's good. Thank God. um, it's a real thing. It's something I'm worried about. It's something every entrepreneur is worried about because focus is one of your biggest strengths where you're in a startup. That's the game. Like you gotta brace it. Like it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be tough, and you gotta prepare. And that's one of the things I'm telling you. Like we need to prepare in a structure that allows us to do that in a way that it's responsible and keep us driving in the markets we're already in. And I think the key for that is the team.
Yeah. That's that seems like a common theme actually, because who was it? I think it was Pomelo. We were talking to Pomelo, Juan
Mm.
Fantoni from Pomelo, and I think he said the same thing. Like they focused on expanding quickly across countries because there's obviously like two paths to growth in LatAm, right? There's grow within your country and build a huge customer base in one country and then go to the next country. And then there's like the quickly expand model, which is you build like customer bases across multiple countries,
Yeah, like
what
Rappi,
back to
for
back.
example. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And Juan, I
super
think he
hard.
said, yeah. And one of the things he mentioned was people. It was he had a great team, and that's what allowed him to expand super quickly across multiple countries. And it seems like that's kind of like what you're doing. And so one thing that got me thinking about that got me thinking about was you mentioned that you admire people like Guillermo Gomez, and I will say we were talking about this beforehand. If you Google him, very different person, not the person Nico's talking about. But can you talk a little bit more about who Guillermo is and like why you admire him?
Yeah, well, he is actually the CRO of Flash, one of the fastest growing SaaS in Brazil. They overreach 100 million ARR extremely fast. That's nuts. And I think, well, Guillermo is now an angel investor and advisor of myself and the company, and he really understands very good the Brazilian market. He's based there since a long time, and I really think what makes Guille very special is, well, first of all, humanly, he's just like a friend. He's super like chill in that regards, like super fun and all that. But he oversees everything from marketing, so lead generation, and he knows every detail of the entire operations until almost product, right? And that's crazy. Like it's and when you're overseeing an operation like that with more than 700 under your arm, and you know every detail, it speaks by itself like how deeply you need to work and connect with every people in the team, because if not, you don't get to know what's really happening on the details. And that founder mode thing is a thing. And I think not only founders but managers should do the same thing. Like, we don't hire people that's going to be just telling you what to do. Like, you need to be into the details. You need to be like, in the craft as well.
Yeah, I feel like part of that is like you need to care and you need to actually be involved. You can't just hand it off to your subordinates and hope that they figure it out. You, like founder mode, you have to be involved. Some might think that's micromanaging, but there's a balance, I guess.
Yeah, and I want to add on something like you mentioned in kind of like the pre-conversation. You said you believe that entrepreneurs are powered by three things. What are those three things, and how does it ring true like for you?
Actually, this is something I read in a paper. I don't remember who wrote it. It was not my idea, but when I read it, it makes so much sense that now I really believe that. The big three things they were saying that powers an entrepreneur is ingenuity. So you don't you don't realize how hard the thing you're trying to do actually is. So you just go and try it out, and you find ways to do it, but you are like naive in that regards. That's the first thing.
Naive
The second,
founder mode. That's what
yeah,
Valentina called it one time. Naive founder mode.
yeah, and that's true. So that's one thing. The second thing is trauma. Like, you went through something in your childhood that kind of marked you in a way that's powering these crazy things you're trying to do. And the final one, it's like this big calling that it's like bigger than yourself, that you're trying to leave something in the world. But it was funny because this author was saying this calling crap is just something you tell yourself to justify the craziness. And it's funny because it's kind of true, but it's not true. I felt it, I could say, you know. And for me, I'm still, the nice thing about this is like when you understand what are the things that are driving you, you can handle yourself better, right? And you can use that power or that fuel in a better way. And I do think I do have some trauma there. I do have some calling. I do have some naiveness, of course. And I'm finding out what those are. Definitely this, let's say, unstable or crazy childhood where I had to adapt to everything is inside there, but there need to be more. And I'm kind of getting to know better myself to understand and use this in a best way possible, because it really is crazy.
Yeah. No, it's great that you mentioned trauma because there's actually a really good read that was actually published about a decade ago by Jason Schumann from Primary VC, and it's a short read too if anyone is like scared by long reads. So it's really good. It only takes maybe about 4 or 5 minutes.
I don't know how to read anymore, but I'll feed it into an LLM and have it
Spit it out.
read it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's called Why Childhood Adversity Creates Great Entrepreneurs. And it talks through essentially Elon Musk and a couple other folks, like PayPal's founder and et cetera. But it talks about how childhood adversity and just adversity in life creates great entrepreneurs. And it's funny because there was a recent post, I think on Twitter, that someone posted about how some of the best unicorn founders out there had issues with like their parents or their fathers or some sort of like trauma there. And so a lot of what they were trying to do is trying to impress or trying to like show that they can do
Yeah,
something.
that
And
sounds
I
like
guess
me, actually, I think.
yeah, there you go. So there's some truth to it. Perfect. But yeah, it's funny because there's so many good founders I know out there, and a lot, and like they do have some trauma in their life where they're trying to do something. They have a chip on their shoulder that they're trying to prove. So
Yeah.
it's so funny that you brought that up. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing bad about it. It's just
Yeah,
how it
it's
is,
life.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you hide it? Like, it's better to understand it and face it. Like, we have a very strong culture here on like extreme ownership and embracing the hard. It's super important. Like, you don't start pointing your finger to everybody, and you don't run out of hard decisions or hard conversations. You gotta face it, because that's how you create value, basically.
Yeah, and I think to your point of like you just have to own it. You have to think of this in the way of like sports, right? I love
Yes.
sports analogies. I grew up playing team sports, and so it's kind of like what you brought up before with culture. It's like it's a team. You guys are there working together. You have a culture around that. And then I think also when it comes to training, that's adversity, right? You have to introduce adversity to your life. You have to push yourself to the limit, and that's how you build muscle. That's how you train. That's how you get better. If you consistently live in like the comfortable zone, you're not going to push yourself. You're not going to get better. And I think that's where adversity, either like early on in life or later on, like moving to a new country, getting fired from a job, other types of adversity, whether it's like familial or just societal, that really pushes folks to be better. So
Become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
exactly. So to folks out there with kids, make sure that maybe like throw your kid on the street for at least like a year.
Move to New York, make them like ride the subway to get anywhere.
Yeah, really, create a hard life for them, even if you don't have to.
That's so funny. I mean, because it's painfully real. I always joke with my friends, like our new generations, like we're all young here, we're much softer than before. And
Yeah.
and that doesn't necessarily makes you a good for yourself in the future, you know?
Yeah. I think take me back to the days when our parents had to walk uphill both ways to go to school. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the snow too.
Yeah. Or they at least like tell the story like that, even though it probably wasn't that bad. Well, Nico, to wrap up here, would love to just like any closing thoughts you have, any advice you have for whether it's first time founders or people who are, in LatAm and thinking about like starting like an AI sort of native company. Any sort of last thoughts, advice you would give someone?
Look, I think for someone starting a business out there, or a intra entrepreneur inside a venture, if you want to be successful, I really think like the hassle is something you can't avoid. Like, it's not sexy when you're starting out. I don't know when should it start getting sexy. But you need to put in the hours, you need to put in the study, you need to learn fast, you need to execute fast, and you need to go again. And I mean, face that since the beginning. Like, if you are going out to build a venture because you think you're gonna be winning a lot of money, and that's your only driving there, and you have no trauma, you're not gonna make it till the end, because it's super, super hard. I think it's the hardest thing you can do in the world. And I also think that's one of the things I trying to prove myself as well, that I can kind of like, I started engineering not because I liked engineering. I started engineering because I thought it was the hardest thing I could do at that point. Uh, I tell myself I try to prove myself, but maybe I'm trying to prove others. I'm not so sure yet. But yeah, I think to wrap up there, like, go hard or go home, basically, right? I think that's kind of the game in the entrepreneur world. And even more if you're trying to build a VC-backed multi-unicorn company. I mean, bro, it's the only way, I think.
Yeah.
I feel so amped up right now.
Ready to run through a wall?
Yeah, multiple walls. I'm going to kick down this door in my room right now.
Yeah.
After we hop off this call.
Dude, this has been awesome, Nico. Wow. Like, what an incredible journey you guys are on. Congrats on the huge Series A, the raise. Congrats on what you guys have built. Amazing company. And, good luck. And it's also amazing hearing you kind of like reflect. I think that's important. If you're doing something so challenging like you are, and in that position, you're going through like a lot of change, like personally, professionally, like everything. So I think it's important, and it sounds like you've done that, is reflected on how you've changed, what values are key, and how important it is to, create and foster like a a good culture.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's very, very important as well. Like, reflect and learn. You need to stay to your opinion, but not that much, because you need to learn and you need to know sometimes you're not like most of the times you're not going to be correct. And that doesn't matter. Like, if you learn, you reflect, that's super good. So thank you guys for having me. It was a very fun conversation. You made me think a lot. I also thank you for that. Like, when you sent me some questions and all that, I had to kind of go back again, bringing some memories, think about how do I think about certain stuff, and it's very good. So thank you so much.
Yeah. If anyone's thinking about doing like an ayahuasca trip or something, don't do that. We'll just send you this questionnaire. It'll be even more impactful.
Yeah. Thank you, Nico. I appreciate it, man.
Strongly
Thanks,
recommend it.
Nico.
Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of La Frontera. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can listen to more great conversations on our Spotify, as well as on your other favorite streaming platforms. You can find us online at lafronterapodcast.com, and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for show notes and to stay in the loop for new content. Ciao for now.